Now today we're going to be talking about Opinel knives and knives in general, knives and swords and things like that, on the pathway of the poet, bard and druid in the natural order. Now, it's a funny thing how subjects for videos come up, because how would I think about knives, making a video about knives, when I'm doing all this other stuff with the videos? It doesn't seem to be pertinent to think about that. Yet we're led to the things that we need to do in a process of events, the events that present themselves in our lives. And it's quite interesting how this video came about, so I'm going to tell you that first before we get started. Well, I was just looking at my YouTube feed. I check my YouTube feed from time to time, and I'm subscribed to a number of channels, so whatever the latest videos are come up. And I saw all these black and white cowboy TV, made for TV videos clogging up my feed. So, I mean, I often get stuff clogging up my feed and I just ignore it. It generally goes away. But I just sort of looked and I said, what have I got all these cowboy movies coming past for? I probably subscribed to this movie channel some time ago when I watched something interesting, and now it's got all this stuff coming up in the feed. And so I thought I'll unsubscribe. So I click on one of the videos to unsubscribe. I'm not choosing the video, I just want to unsubscribe just so I can click on the channel. And then I go to, and then the unsubscribe button comes out, I think, yeah. And so I go to click on the unsubscribe button. My hand won't move, it won't unsubscribe. Oh my God, what's going on here? Yeah, so maybe I have to watch this video. So I click on the video and I start to watch this video, start to find out what this video is that I clicked on, thinking I was going to unsubscribe, because the mistakes are the best part, yeah. So this video is called, I think it's called The Story of Jim Bowie, yeah. And there's a whole series, whole television program. And I watched the video and it's very interesting. It's just like what we're talking about in the last videos about warmongers, and it's actually about the destruction of the North American Indians and that. And Jim Bowie is like a man he believes in fair fight, and he's the friend of the Indian rather than wants to fight them and things like that. He does have a fight, but he has a fight with the Indian, not a fight, it's just a contest of skill he has. And Jim Bowie has the Bowie knife, you see, special kind of a knife. And so I thought, I wonder why I'm watching this, and I'm thinking back because I used to have a Bowie knife, yeah, so that was made specially to my design. I didn't even know it was a Bowie knife. I just drew a picture of a knife. What I did was, I'll tell you anyway. The guy said, I went to a blacksmith one day and I said, I need a knife. I need a knife. It's got to be a heavy knife so it can be used for chopping and stuff like that. To chop small saplings down. And so he said, well, what shape is it? So I sort of took my hand like this and I went like this. Something like that. And what he ended up doing was, he didn't make something like that. He made something exactly to the exact pattern. He just took the pattern and he cut it out and made exactly what I'd drawn. And it was an amazing knife. It was my sacred knife when I was building yurts and cutting sticks for people and stuff like that. And so, I carried it for some time until it left me in a very special way. I knew that God had taken it from me and given it to somebody else. And it wasn't a mistake, it was the best part. Because something else, you have to lose something to gain something. You have to use little knives, many little knives, to gain one big knife. Now, I went a bit, after watching this Jim Bowie film, TV episode, it struck me as quite an interesting, significant kind of a filmmaker. I thought, this is not usual for the time, yeah. The time was 1956 to 1958, 2 years it ran for on TV. And there was a lot of wars at this time. I thought it's most unusual to have some like pacifist, fair fight program on the TV in America, for all of America to see. This guy was an English guy, English actor. And so I went into YouTube, I checked the background of how the film was made and why it's and how long it ran for. And I said, it was supposed to run for 5 years, but it only ran for 2, and they chopped it. And the final episode, the guy didn't even have the guy in it who was Jim Bowie. It had somebody else in it, some bad guy. It was like a crook or something, took over, and then Jim Bowie was supposed to come back and make some movie, but no, that was the end of the series. And he was like really annoyed that they cancelled the program, the show. He wanted it to run for 5 years. And so it was a kind of anti-corruption movie that ended in corruption. And they got rid of him, yeah. So perhaps this time, there was a lot of wars, yeah, at this time. Probably the start of the Korean War and stuff like that. And so they didn't want these kind of pacifist, fair fight, kind of honourable things on television. Yeah. And it was criticised for being violent. And it was, actually, the first episodes of it. I went and had a look, and it said that the first episode was how Jim Bowie got his Bowie knife, how it was made for him by a blacksmith. So I thought, that's interesting, I'll go and watch that one, the first one. So I watched the first one. It's exactly the same story. You know, it's a common theme. It's exactly the same story as what happened to me. But I didn't even know I was following the Jim Bowie kind of pattern, yeah. And what Jim Bowie did, he actually found a blacksmith, the greatest blacksmith in the land. And I found the greatest blacksmith in the land. He was a master blacksmith, a special fairy man, actually. He lived in a house that he grew. He grew a house by planting trees in a circle and then training the trees together. He grew his house. That's how close to nature he was. And so when Jim Bowie found his blacksmith, and then the blacksmith couldn't see properly, so he had to get him glass, he had to help him to get glasses. And then he made the knife for him. Yeah. And to make the knife, Jim Bowie used his little knife, his pen knife, to carve a knife out of wood to the pattern that he wanted, and then he gave the pattern to the blacksmith to make the knife in metal. And I also had to use the knife, I had to carve the handle out of a piece of solid oak. You have no idea how hard solid oak is. I had to split the oak into 2 and carve out the place for the blade to go inside the oak. And whilst he was making the knife, I made the handle. And then I gave him the handle, and he connected the handle with rivets to the blade. Yeah. And so it's a very interesting archetype, the journey to the knife. And when I did the diagram, he took one look at the diagram, he said, it's a Bowie knife. And that's the only way I knew that the knife shape that I'd drawn was a Bowie knife. That's the only reason I knew it. I wouldn't know what a Bowie knife was at that time. So there's a knife journey, the journey of the blade. And it probably comes out, this kind of a knife is probably comes out after one becomes a knight on the pathway, because a knight is a special kind of, I want to say militaristic. It's not militaristic at all. It's more the defender of the lady. And a lot of these Jim Bowie movies are that, like he defends the ladies. Defends the poor, the sick, the needy and the oppressed. That's the job of the knight. He's the defender of that, of the kingdom. Defender of the kingdom of nature. And he doesn't harm nature. Doesn't harm nature. Now, the reason he wanted the Bowie knife made for him was because in the first episode, he came into contact with Mother Bear, and Mother Bear attacked him and mauled him, and the knife that he had wasn't big enough or good enough to actually get through the skin of the bear, so he got mauled pretty badly. He couldn't give the bear a good enough poke to get rid of it. And so that's why he wanted this bigger Bowie knife, more powerful Bowie knife. But the interesting thing was, he wasn't frightened of the bear. He didn't want to kill the bear. He didn't want to shoot the bear. He wanted the bear to leave him alone. He only defended himself in the last instance. He didn't want to harm nature if nature was going to leave him alone. Yeah? And so it was a test of his courage and his righteousness that he ended up on this pathway to getting his blade. Now, before one gets to that stage, one starts with a smaller knife, okay, a smaller knife. And so this is what's called an Opinel. I'm going to write the word down. This is the name of the knife, manufacturer of the knife, and it's called an Opinel, and it's made in France. And if you haven't got an Opinel knife, you haven't got an Opinel. You haven't got a hope in hell, all right, if you haven't got an Opinel knife. Only the people who have Opinel knives have got a hope in hell. They're in hell, but they've got a hope in hell, yeah. They're not in hell. They've actually, because L is the word for God. They've got hope in God, hope in God. That's what the Opinel word means. And you'll see that it's got a special hand on it. It's got a special hand symbol. I don't know if you can see that. It might take a while to focus. There's a hand on there. Now, after many years on the journey and many Opinel knives, I actually ended up in the place where Opinel knives are made, funny enough, in France. And it turns out that the hand on the Opinel knife is the mummified hand of John the Baptist. John the Baptist. So you have to be baptized. Like John the Baptist baptized Jesus, you have to be baptized by John the Baptist, probably yourself, just so you baptize yourself, and that's God baptizing you through your own body. And so you, after that point in time, you can find yourself getting an Opinel knife. And I've given many of these away. You have to give Opinel knives away. You have to give your only Opinel knife, your Opinel. You have to give it to somebody else to get the next one. Yeah. And there's a whole journey. This one is a number 8 Opinel knife. There's number 1, number 2, number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's all the numbers in the universe of Opinel knives, all different sizes. There are other Opinel objects, there are Opinel bags, and there's Opinel, there's all sorts of stuff. I've even got, on my boat, I've got the Opinel bag. God knows how you find that. I just found mine. And so this is a journey, a long journey, okay, through many knives, giving them away, God taking them away, God giving them to you. And the final thing that happens after you lose this knife, then you have to go through the sword master initiation, where you actually get your sword, okay. And I'm not going to go into that, that's something else. And so I tell you about this journey, and I noticed, the reason I noticed that there's a journey of knives is that because I had to work together with the rainbow people, rainbow people before the rainbow was taken over by this other group of people. Or maybe the same group who just evolved into that, I don't know. The Opinel knife, they all had Opinel knives, and people, they never had different kinds of knives. Everybody had this knife. It was just this knife that I found. The people on the journey of poets, bards and druids all have this knife. Yeah. And you probably all got one and say, oh wow, that's interesting, I didn't know that. There's a journey and you can get through. Yeah, I've had every number of Opinel knife, every number. Yeah. I didn't try to get every number, I just found myself doing that, yeah. And you also will find yourself on that journey. If you go far enough, if you go long enough, maybe you'll go through the Jim Bowie initiation where some blacksmith has to make you something special. I watched another guy go through it in a yacht. I think I also did some yacht journey before I got the Bowie. I'm not sure about that. I watched a guy who was making really good videos about sailing on YouTube, and he visited somewhere in Cornwall in the Helford River, where he went with a blacksmith, and I don't know whether he made his knife or they made it for him. It might have had something to do with making it part of it himself too. If you search Helford River, something like that, like I mentioned, you might find this video. Cardo, I think he's sailing channels with Cardoha or something like that. So the patterns there, that's the only other case of this that I'm aware of, somebody having a knife made like this. I'll take 5 and finish my coffee. There's a dove. Now where does a thought come from? A thought, kind of like the most divine thing in the universe, is a thought. Krishnamurti would say thought's a bad thing, yeah. Yet a thought's a bad thing if you're in the fallen state. It's not a bad thing. It is a bad thing, it's not a bad thing. A thought is what causes you to initiate an event in your life. And if you're in a fallen state, if you're living in hell, God has put you into your own mind, so you can work on yourself, so you can become a better person. You can correct your own mistakes. That's when you're put into your mind. Yeah. When you're unenlightened, when you're consigned to the pit of your own mind. Then you think thoughts, that's what you think. God makes you think that you're thinking your own thoughts. Yeah. And that's always about past and future, because you're analysing your mistakes, yeah. And you're also, God's leading you to your next events. Could be some bad stuff that's going to happen to you. Watch out! Fear and loathing in Las Vegas. Now, when you transcend the mind, you end up in a state, if you like, of joy and peace. And your thoughts are gone. There's no thoughts. There's just reality, yeah. All of a sudden you see through the veil, you see reality for the first time. Wow. Then a thought might come, yeah. Now you're lost. You're out of reality, you're thinking about something. So you've got to keep your eye on yourself. It's like a groove in a record, yeah. You can get back into this thought thing. And so one practice is recognizing when one has fallen into a fallen state and then resolving back into reality and eventually just staying reality all the time. Yeah. So that's Krishnamurti's teaching on that. Yeah, it's good to get his teachings if you want to practice that. Now, what can happen to you if you're not thinking? If you're not thinking, right, and you're just in reality experiencing peace without thought, a word can come to you. Now it's the same as a thought, it's the same as a thought. It's the same mechanism. It's actually coming from the throat here, it's coming from this chakra here, and when you speak, it's the same thing. It's called the word, it's the word. The word is from the throat, and it's the same place as thought is generated from, the same mechanism of the hearing yourself speak and the speaking that produces the thought. You know? Every thought comes from God, and actually scientists have found out that before a thought appears in the mind, there's actually an electrical signal that you don't hear, and then the thought appears. There's something precedes the thought that you not even aware of. It's interesting. Because it's kind of like you're more like a receiving station. You're receiving the thought. You're not thinking it yourself. You're actually receiving it. It's commanding you. It's like your master telling you what to do. Oh my God, I've got to fix a car. Oh my God, I've got to do this. Oh, what if I don't finish that in time? It's a slave driver, the thought. God drives you because it's to teach you, don't fall into the fallen state. You want to be enlightened. You want to be out of your mind. And in reality, okay. Now, to get back to the thought that comes to you that isn't a thought, that uses the same mechanism. Now, I'll tell you about the first time this happened to me, because it was a remarkable experience. I was in no thought land, and I was practicing learning about the Great Way. The Great Way is what leads us on the pathway of being, yeah, from one event to the next. What's moving my arms now is the Great Way. I'm not doing it. I'm not thinking, I've got to, I shouldn't move my hands in case what would the people think? That's all thoughts, right? It's all about me. And the Great Way is all about the will of God. The will of God is moving us, yeah. And the Word of God can come to us whilst we're on the Great Way, okay. If we're not in our minds, if we're in reality, then the Word can come to us. It doesn't come to us all the time. The Word is what's coming to you now through this vehicle of little Adam, yeah. His voice is being used to project the Word into the camera, right? And the arms are doing this, and it's all on the Great Way. It's the Great Way, the Word, so on. And so I was practicing to try to feel the Great Way. You don't have to do anything. You just have a thought comes to you. A thought comes to you and says, I'll try this now, or I'll do this now. And so I used to do this in the shower, because I found that the shower with the water, it gives you more, it makes you more receptive, and you can receive the information that's coming to you, leading you on the Great Way, and what easier than if you've not got water, you know. Fire is more for creation, water's more for reception. So I was under the shower, and what I do in the shower, I don't know if you can see anything, but I just kind of find myself moving, and like what they do with Tai Chi and stuff like that, you just find yourself doing, you might find yourself going right down and coming back up again, and that's how you end up putting your head on the ground in submission to God, because you can find yourself just doing that, having to do that, go down on your hands and knees, put your head in the ground, and God will hold you there. And then typically what happens is the word will come. You'll get a communication from God in that moment. And the first one I got was in the shower. As I said, I was in the shower doing this Tai Chi, and then a huge big explosion in my head came and said, "The Theosophical Society was made for you." Those exact words in that way. That's all it was. Boom. I thought, wow, that's amazing. That's called clairaudience. Yeah, it's just a thought, that's all. Yeah, it's coming to you as a kind of message from the spiritual realms. Yeah. The ancestral realms. The ancestors are helping us with this process, because this is something you can't just, it can't come out of you. There's nothing to do with how would you know the Theosophical Society was made for you. It's got to be given to you as a thing. So anyway, that point, it was such a profound thing that I found out about the Theosophical Society at that point, and I contacted them wanting to tell them that I'd had this special message, and their whole reason for being is to examine these exact phenomena I'm talking about, and nobody was interested, and that was the end of it, you know. I mean, the Theosophical Society had fallen. It wasn't doing what it was sent here to do. It was sent here to help me, yet it didn't help me. And I had to meet somebody from the Anthroposophical Society before I got any help. And that Anthroposophical Society was also fallen, but they weren't. So that's interesting. That was when I met my lady Elizabeth. She was connected with the Anthroposophical Society. The Anthroposophical Society broke away from the Theosophical Society over the issue that they said that Krishnamurti was not the Messiah, which was a mistake. Yeah, but the mistakes are the best part, because the Anthroposophical Society still had some energy left in it after the Theosophical Society had completely lost it. So there you go. I'll take 5. So there you have it. The thought is what's driving us all. We're all being driven by the thought. And it's either the thought that we think we have ourselves, so then we have our own personality, and then once you transcend that, you've got the thoughts of God, which is the personality of the Godhead. It's 2 different personalities. It's the same mechanism, yeah? And it's no different. It's how God controls life on earth. And it's the same way that the animals are controlled. All the creatures in the universe are all under the control of God through their thoughts. And so there's no disorder, except that the disorder is created by creatures learning their lessons on the planet. Yeah. And so God, if you learn your lessons to a certain point, God gives you the personality of Godhead and helps you from the ancestral realms. If you are making mistakes, God puts you into your own mind, and then he says, "I never knew you." You won't hear any special messages from God at all. You'll just be driven by your own mind to understand the mistakes that you made. Okay. That's the mechanism that we live under in the world, and why there's a providence and why there's a fate. It's a scientific analysis of the process of evolution, of life on earth. That's what it is. that's enough. There's a dove again. It's all divine stuff we're talking about this. Now, when we're not speaking, when there's nothing coming, then that's the way it is. Yeah, there's a reason for that. And so everything stopped in the last video, so I said that's enough. And then when I went to turn the camera off, the charge in the battery was too low. And so I couldn't have carried on anyway. So even though it seemed like I was stopping, maybe I should have been carrying on, but nothing was coming. There's always a reason, yeah? So the mistakes are the best part. And everything is perfect and happening automatically. And so that's where it comes from. This understanding of how the universe works allows us to realize the truth that everything's perfect and happening automatically, and the mistakes are the best part. New stuff comes out of the mistakes. The extraordinary comes out of the mistakes. Extraordinary. Otherwise just ordinary. You know. Now, this fundamental realization is the grounds of understanding that all organizations are false. Because if we try to organize, we just get in the way of nature. If I make an appointment to meet you at a certain time, how do I know that that's where I'm meant to be at that time? I might need to be doing something else. I might need to be saying something somewhere else. And so I've got in the way of the great way of being, that is allowing everything to operate perfectly. So I've damaged the perfection of the universe. So now nothing's happening perfectly and nothing's okay. So often you'll have the experience where there's nothing to do because everybody's off, they've all made appointments, and now there's nobody in your world, there's nobody in the world of God, the world of nature. They're all off in hell somewhere doing all their hellish stuff, all their hellish appointments and that. Now sometimes you think you have to make an appointment, and sometimes you do. I once went, because I never make appointments, try not to, I once went on a journey to cross the English Channel to go to Germany by bicycle. And when I got to the ferry, there was no way across. They wouldn't let me on without pre-booking a cabin to get across. I said, well, I don't want a cabin, I just want to hang around, wait on the boat, and then I'll get off on the other side, thank you very much, just foot passenger. No, can't do that, we don't allow that. So I had to turn around and come back, and I never got to see my lady. I was going to Germany to visit my lady, so I never got to see her. And I thought, well, I'm just going to have to make an appointment. So, I did. After some time, I didn't go that time, maybe some months later, I made an appointment and I had to go on a bus, get to Germany via appointments. And I hate doing that. I really hate doing that. Because I know my synchronicity is all going to be messed up. Yet, having made the appointment, I do get led into other synchronicities on the journey. God uses you, and He knows, if you know that you're not supposed to make the appointment, but you can't help it, well then he doesn't take away all that synchronicity. He creates new synchronicity around it. Okay, it's not having to learn that lesson, it's just that the world in hell is just so bad now that you just can't get across the channel unless you make an appointment. And that was remarkable. That's the first time, one of the first times I ever hit that snag where I can't just travel freely. I've got to make an appointment. I went all the way to the Gambia in Africa by bicycle without making any appointments. This was just to get out of England and across to Europe. You had to make an appointment. Actually, I lie. I had to book a passage on a ship to get to Morocco. I did have to do that. So I had to go at a certain time, a certain place. And so when my lady comes here, I've got to arrange with her, now give me a call when you get here and I'll get enough time to get in the car and go to the station and pick you up. She had to make the appointment. She has to travel on a certain plane at a certain time. It can be very worrying. It's a big challenge to have to move through this hellish landscape of appointments to get from one place in the world to another. So I often feel that we shouldn't really be travelling like this. I try to avoid it. So nothing's coming right now. Does it matter? If nothing's coming, we have to wait for the body to move. Will it move? Will it not move? Will it say something? These are the two methods that God uses. The movement of the body on the Great Way and the speaking or the thoughts coming to our mind as to what's happening next or what piece of information we need in this moment in time. Okay, let's do it. Okay, it's the same issue really. I'm fighting the battery. We've got a little bit of charge. We haven't got a lot of charge, so I'm going to have to bring this video to a close because I just have to leave the camera on charge for a long time to completely recharge its battery. So I'm stuck, and perhaps I've said enough about this particular issue. Perhaps it's another video I have to make about what I had been thinking about but doesn't seem to come to me when I stand in front of the camera. Now God says, wait, it's enough. And many people will think it's peculiar to live your life like this. And it's marvellous actually to stay, to remain in divine nature, to not leave it, and to be guided by God in the will of God. It's to be submitted to the will of God, to not want anything, to not desire anything in the moment, to go with the flow, to do what we absolutely feel like doing. Now right now I don't feel like doing anything else except sit here, the words that are coming, the coffee, a little bit left here to drink. It's a beautiful day out there. I don't feel like going out in the sun, don't feel like that. There's unread books here, marked where I've left it. I don't feel like reading it now. I may not feel like reading it ever again. Yet, I may find myself picking it up at some point. I may use it as a prop. It may just be a prop. We don't know what anything's for. We have the I Ching here. Okay. Now, I get a message, do it. Okay, alright, let's do it. Let's do the I Ching. Okay. That says not there. Alright, go back here. Yeah. This one, alright? Yeah. Well, that means open here, okay. Now I've got my thumb on both sides here. That's both pages. Both pages, round about where the thumb is here, okay. If the sixth in the second place continues to do this, it brings misfortune, because in going it loses its place among its kind. Okay. In going, if it continues to do this, make appointments and stuff like that, it loses its place among its kind. So it ends up not in its place. So you can be enlightened, right? And you can make an appointment. But now you're going to be not with your kind, you're going to meet the other kind, okay? You're going to be separated from the people like you, the ones who are not making appointments, the ones in the divine will of God. You're not going to be with them because you've made an appointment. Now it says, in contrast to fate of the sixth in the second place. Now that was six in the second place that we were reading there. It says here, in contrast to the fate of the sixth in the second place, spying about with sharp eyes, it also means eye, okay? Good fortune in turning to the summit, to be provided with nourishment, inheres in the fact that the one above spreads light. Okay, so this is a contra of the one that we just looked at. Okay, the one above spreads light. The personality of God, head or hood, spreads light. Or we can lose our light. We can lose our place. Now you don't want to be doing this all the time. When you're called to do this, look in a book, you can do this with any book, yeah? You can do it with any book, okay? Let's have a look here. Here, it says here, let's have a look here. Right. To cast horoscopes, it was necessary to know which stars were overhead at any particular moment, and hence to understand latitude and longitude. That's how they used to do it, yeah, from the stars, yeah. To look for signs in the universe. You can get something from here, not this one, not this one. Over here, a bit more. This one, this side, here, here. It says, chapter 1, of how to choose a human philosopher king and put him into a position of absolute power. Now you don't want to choose a philosopher king and put him into a position of absolute power. That's organising the world, yeah. This guy got it wrong, yeah. There already is a philosopher king already occupying that position. It's just a matter of recognising the philosopher king. And if you put somebody in the position by an appointment, you see, you can appoint somebody, yeah? It's the same word, appointment, yeah? You shouldn't make appointments. God appoints everything. God makes all the appointments. So there already is somebody. You just have to recognise that, to recognise the reality around us, yeah? And if you walk into a room, everybody in the room knows who the wisest philosopher king is in the room. Yeah, behave accordingly. You don't need to. He's been appointed by who? By who? Not by God, by the devil. He's been appointed by the devil to take the place of the true philosopher king. That's what appointments, in that sense of the word, do. Now you see, we don't know what anything's for. We start a little journey around some pages of some books. We end up in this position now where we can find some interesting thing related to appointments. So this is how God leads us into what we need to know, what we need to learn in this moment. So I hope it's of three useful things to you. Everything serves three purposes in the universe. Okay? It brings you information about the great way, it brings you information about the word, and it discusses how not to make appointments. Three things in one video. Thanks for watching. Well, that last video I thought was the end of it. I noticed it was called video number 323. So you've got the big 3 there at the end of it. Now, there's one other thing that I wanted to say, and that's that you might think that by putting a video like this on YouTube, it's esoteric, right? There's stuff in here that's, to a normal person in a fallen state, is going to be challenging. They're going to think, this is terrible, this is a whole lot of rubbish. Okay, which it would be to them because they don't need to know this stuff yet. And so what happens then is if you're not meant to watch something, God doesn't want you to see something. He doesn't want to create conflict. As long as I didn't go and promote this video, do anything to bring people to the video. I have done that. Sometimes I think there's not enough views on this video. Maybe I need to tell somebody about it, otherwise nobody will find it. If I do that, then what will happen is immediately, by the next day I'll go and look and I'll see, oh, somebody didn't like this video. I get the opposite of a like, whatever that's called. I don't normally get any of those. If I do anything to promote a video, I generally get one of those. Okay. Teach me not to do that, because what happens is I bring the wrong person to the video. Yeah. So what happens is if somebody clicks on the video who's the wrong person in the video, then listen to a few words I'm saying. Say, my God, that's a load of rubbish, or oh goodness me, doesn't he look ugly? You know, I can't listen to this guy, this is terrible. And God will just put these thoughts into their mind and they'll be off. Yeah, they'll be off. And if they get part way through the video and they get sort of interesting, they're interested in what's happening at the beginning of the video, perhaps about knives and stuff like that, and then they get to the point where it starts to get a bit esoteric, they just say, oh no, this is boring, and go and watch something else. God just puts the thought in, and it's not necessary to prevent anything. This is a law, we come to this other law, it says, do nothing to stop anything. Do nothing to stop anything. And if you find yourself stopping something, do nothing to stop that either. This is very profound. And the reason I came up with that line now in this video is because I'm remembering, God is putting into my mind to remember the mistake that I thought I was doing yesterday. Because my partner Elizabeth was telling me something, that she'd done something, and I was finding myself telling her, oh no, you shouldn't have done that, and I was going on and on about it. And I knew while I was doing it, I said, I shouldn't be doing this because everything's perfect and happening automatically. Yet I am doing it. And so I couldn't stop it. I didn't stop it. I just let it go on because we don't know what anything's for. Yeah? And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be able to tell the story now on the video. It wouldn't have been in my mind. Because my Lady Elizabeth is preparing me for these videos. She knows everything. I know nothing. I understand everything that she brings me to, and I bring that understanding back to her and the world. That is the mystery of the divine couple. This is a divine couple here. This is Jason and Media. Jason does the Argonaut journey, and it's a step on the pathway of the great chain of being. I did speak about this picture in one of my other videos if you want to know more about that. And so when I got my boat, that was the Argonaut journey. I had to go down and get this boat that I'd never seen, bought sight unseen, prepare, and never sailed before in my life, really, a boat like this, and prepare it to go in the water, get chucked in the water and sail it 500 miles around the coast and the English Channel and around Land's End, and I ended up actually running into the cliffs of at Land's End in the middle of the night, which is actually part of the journey of Jason, that happens with Jason and the Argonauts. So there's a mystery to all these couple pictures from the ancient Greeks and the Romans and the Egyptians and so on, that there's a whole series of initiations surrounding each one of these archetypes. And I'm probably putting this at the end of this video because there's nobody watching at this point that doesn't need this information. Okay. So I leave you on that. So it's a great long journey to get to Jason and the Argonauts. That's a huge journey. It took me the best part of 17 or 18 years on the pathway to becoming a Druid, which I didn't know I was on, to find myself doing that. And I think there's a white egg that you get at the end of that journey. I think it's the end of this journey you get this white egg, yeah, the end of the Jason the Argonaut journey. And now I've got another egg that I've never seen in the universe, and I'll show you this egg. Now, this is a Grail cup, right? And this is another Grail cup. And this is a special coloured egg, variegated coloured egg. And my lady found this object. This is a double couple cup. I don't know how on earth you get one of these. Objects come to you, and this is the state of affairs that we're at now on our initiation on the journey of the divine couple to some kind of higher druidic level, okay, that's never been discovered before. Nobody knows about this egg. And between this egg and the white egg, there's another egg. There might even be two eggs. I don't know. I can't remember all this stuff. There's a green egg, there's a blue egg, and there's a white egg. The green egg is the egg of the bard, the final journey of the bard. Final journey of the poet is the blue egg. And the final journey of the druid is the white egg. Yet this is beyond the final journey of the druid. So nobody knows what this is. So we're discovering this in the moment. And so this is a green variegated egg. So this is the work of the divine couple druid, yeah. And now there's two cups. And the previous cup of this, before this object appeared in the universe, the previous cup, this is the previous cup that the previous egg used to sit in, on, okay. Now, that is obsolete. And now we have this thing, cup. The universe is a mysterious place, and we only find this out in the moment. We only find this out being on the great way, rising up through the great chain of being to this level on the chain, whilst coming under the will of God. It's the only way you can find yourself in this position. Now I'm 71 years old. I know he's a little bit younger than me. And it's taken me to the age of 71 years to get myself to here. But it's just, every one of you can find yourself here. Every one of you. All you've got to do is follow the will of God, and you can get right through to the very highest levels. Every single one of you. And it's the most incredible journey that anyone, gentleman or lady, can devote their life to. It's the only thing worth doing in the universe. And to understand all that stuff that the Greeks kind of knew, to understand all that is a wonderful thing. To look at objects and know something about them, what they mean, to discover all the wisdom in the entire history of the last 5,000 years. It's a wonderful thing. And I hope you all end up here. It's something to aspire to. You can't desire it. You aspire to go as far as you can go on the great chain of being. Maybe one day you'll find yourself here with your beautiful lady, your media. So don't watch the other media. Make sure you've got your media. And you, as a Jason, you have your sailing boat. You can't be Jason without a sailing boat. That's just the way it is. Thanks for watching.